Hi, I'm Barry Kohler, and I was fortunate to have Uri Seligsohn as both a dear friend and a terrific scientific colleague. David Verone and I prepared an obituary for Uri that you can read in the Journal of Thrombosis and Hemostasis, and I'll summarize some of the information from that obituary in my comments. Uri was born on February 6, 1937 in Tel Aviv. His family had very long and distinguished careers. His family members had distinguished careers as patent attorneys in Germany, but because of the imposition of anti-Semitic laws by the Nazis, they moved to Palestine under the British mandate in 1934. Uri attended Hebrew University Medical School and Hadassah Hospital from 1957 to 1963 and received his MD degree in 1964. He then trained in medicine and hematology at the Sheba Medical Center in Tel HaShomer, and then eventually became professor of hematology at Tel Aviv University in 1982. From 79 to 93 was the director of the Institute of Hematology at Ichilov Hospital, which is where I first started collaborating with him. And from 1993 to 2005 was the first chair of the Department of Hematology and then director of the Institute of Thrombosis and Hemostasis at Sheba. He also founded and directed the Amelia Biran Research Institute of Thrombosis and Hemostasis and the Sheba Medical Center from 2002 to 2018. Uri was a charismatic leader even in childhood, and where he was called by the other kids the prince, and he was really, as an adult, admired for his medical and scientific brilliance and for his mentorship, as well as his personal integrity. And so he wound up with many leadership positions in the World Federation of Hemophilia and a variety of other organizations that you can read about in the obituary. He was, however, particularly attached to the International Society on Thrombosis and Hemostasis. And education was really very high priority for him. He served as vice dean of the Sackler Faculty of Medicine at Tel Aviv University. And he also chaired the education committee of the ISTH for several terms. He was also a terrific writer, and we had the fun of co-editing Williams Hematology for several editions. Uri also, with David Verone, established the Israeli Society of Thrombosis and Hemostasis and developed a series of training programs. He was, as I said, really devoted to the ISTH, and he ultimately served as chair of the ISTH Council and president of the 1995 Congress in Jerusalem, which I have fantastically fond memories of. He won many awards, most interestingly, the Ham Wasserman Lecture from the American Society of Hematology, the ISTH Esteemed Career Award, and of course, culminating in his winning the Robert P. Grant Medal from the ISTH. He served in the Israel Defense Forces from 1960 to 1967 and 1973 wars, and he continued to serve in a variety of roles in protecting the population. I remember specifically touring with him in 1991 during the Gulf War, when there was concern about poison gas attacks, and where he had to set up showers outside of Ichilov in order to potentially decontaminate people before they even entered the hospital. He was a master clinician, and he cared for many patients with really a wide spectrum of hematologic disorders. He and his mentor, Dr. Bracha Ramot, recognized early on that there was many populations in Israel in which the populations came to Israel after having lived in isolation in their native lands. And as a result, they tended to have intra-group marriage, and recessive genetic disorders were more common. And that really launched Uri into a number of really important aspects of his career. And he cared for patients with, of course, sex-linked forms of hemophilia, but also patients with factor 11 deficiency, factor 7 deficiency, the rare combined factor 8 and factor 5 deficiencies, and Glanzmann thrombocythemia. The last disorder is the one on which we had a lot of fun collaborating. So he pioneered both basic research in these areas as well as better patient care, and really quite extraordinary contributions across a very broad range of activities. The patients he cared for really loved him. And I remember going to visit one of the families with Glanzmann thrombocythemia with him in the Galilee. And the family just showered us with course after course of delicacies. And you could just see how much they appreciated all that he did. Uri joined Sam Rappaport's lab in the 1970s, and with Sam and John Osterud and John Griffin, they did really quite important basic studies related to factor 7 and its activation. We had the fun of improving our analysis of patients with Glanzmann thrombocythemia as all of the technologies improved. And eventually, in addition, of course, to platelet aggregation, polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis, then immunoblotting, and monoclonal antibody development that allowed us to really begin to sort out and better diagnose, including the carrier state, and even doing prenatal diagnosis. With Peter Newman and later with Debbie French, we also worked on the molecular genetic characterization of Glanzmann's patients, and that allowed prenatal diagnosis to actually be done by chorionic villus sampling. And that was really a fantastically exciting set of studies that we worked on together and were extremely gratifying. Also, he was able to work with David Ginsburg in deciphering the cause of the factor 5 and factor 8 combined deficiency, discovering the novel transport mechanism in protein biogenesis, and also studied the biologic basis of factor 11 deficiency among Ashkenazi, Roman, and Iraqi Jews, French Basques, and Arabs. And as with the Glanzmanns, he was able to really identify founder defects and perform quite sophisticated population genetics related to these disorders. So it allowed for not just the characterization of the particular patient, but gave us the beginning of the application of genetics for really understanding the flow of populations across the world. Uri really was the consummate family man. His beloved wife, Hani, who he had met early in life, really were a fantastic team together. Their children, Yael, and Gabi, and Dani, they're really all wonderful, wonderful children. And of course, they're no longer children. They're all very accomplished in their own professional fields. And they, with their grandchildren, Hani and Uri, traveled quite a lot, including a trek in Nepal that I remember well, because I remember Uri practicing and getting really ready for that, because that was going to be a very demanding hiking, but it was a challenge that he loved, and it was great. Uri and Hani also loved the theater, the opera, and the symphony. Hani was for many years connected to and still connected to the Habima National Theater And later in life, they were able to move to Tel Aviv to be really right in the center of the cultural world. Just to sum up, Uri really leaves an enormously rich legacy with every institution, patient, student, peer, and friend that he touched, enriched by his creativity, his warmth, and most importantly, his absolute commitment to the highest values and ideals of academic medicine. I miss him dearly and just really appreciate the opportunity to celebrate him in this most meaningful way. Thank you.